It's 6 minutes till when I was actually slow today instead of fast.
This is the City of Craig Council meeting for November 5th, 2020.
Is that your new jacket?
No, I usually do like a shower curtain. I end up having to get like a full pack. It weighs like 50 pounds. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the best.
Call last night, wrestling started raining again.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah.
Michelle.
I laid out my roots and my couch for 2 days.
I just got your message.
Made reservations at the
Yeah.
Jensen.
First day, right?
I put that in my phone for a while. All the places I got for
Oh,
You're good.
Me neither. Just for the
I
shop.
had 2 invitations before I even left 4.3 times.
You're more popular.
I'm standing there with Chris and Chuck.
Because I didn't get carried away.
House is open. Chuck's like,
Later on, when I showed up, you know, the next day, Chuck was sitting there saying, I got an apartment up there.
Yeah.
You guys could have stayed up there.
Amen.
Guys are doing a training up there. Sticking each other's fingers.
Very nice.
Got a lot of practice in that. Julie mentioned last meeting. Julie mentioned the last meeting. She said the back of that meeting, that not being well. I don't know. I think.
I love them like, yeah, I'm so looking forward to Friday tomorrow.
Yeah, questions like-
Could be. No judgment. No judgment. It's a breath.
Where am I?
Yep.
Cut and paste.
The snow has come.
Supposed to be more tomorrow. June had 2 feet last week.
That's amazing.
Some places in North June, and then the friends up there. 2 feet.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We got that in rain.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Cold, you know,
Like,
getting in the pump. Pretty bad. Way colder. And it's sick and off. Or inside the group, it's sick and wasn't bad, but.
Yeah, you have to look at
You know, strength, for cucumbers.
none of the averages. Yeah.
Howdy.
This time change, it's been awful. It's been pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's it.
I like going to bed at 6:45 now. Yeah. What is that? Yeah. I can love that.
Very. That clock is about 2.5 minutes slow. It's 7 o'clock. Both of these say that.
You what?
I said both of these say 7 o'clock.
What's your station?
That's it, though.
We'll start the meeting. Can we do roll call, please? Hannah's in.
Julie McDonald,
Present.
Patty Bacanet,
Here.
Jim Steve,
Here.
Mary Schoonover,
Here.
Mike Kemp,
Here.
Chanel McKinley,
Here.
Timothy O'Connor,
Here. Moving on to the consent agenda. I got something to say about that.
We have to accept consent agenda.
Second.
Motion been seconded to accept the consent agenda. Any discussion on that? No. All in favor of accepting consent agenda, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Moving on, hearing from the public.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Marcos Shear from the mariculture industry. He may have dialed in. I'd like to check on the phone to see if he's there.
Okay.
Marcos, are you on the phone?
Yes, hello, John. This is Marco Shear. I am on the line.
Okay. Mayor has recognized you for the purposes of public comment. If you're ready to begin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, John, for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. I just wanted to do two things. One, make myself available for any questions that the council may have about our seaweed operation down in Doyle Bay. And if you'd like kind of an update as to what we're doing, I'd be happy to provide that. And then lastly, if there's anyone at any of the council members that would like to go down and see the farm in the next, before next Thursday, we're happy to accommodate that. We've got a vessel and can certainly do that. We'll be involved in putting our seed in the water, which we produce at the nursery at Oceans, Alaska and Ketchikan. And we will start transporting that, the first seed over. We'll bring it over, seed line will come over tomorrow afternoon on the ferry, and we'll start putting that in the water on Saturday. We expect to have put about 170,000 feet of kelp seed line in the water here in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, subject to weather and the vagaries of nature. But we will. But we're excited about that. We had a moderately successful year last year with our first year. We were able to produce about 40 tons of product, which we processed at EC Phillips. And most of that has made it into the marketplace, so we feel like we we've been successful at, we built a nursery, we built a farm, we harvested and we sold most of the product. So, in those regards, we feel like we had a successful year. We do have plans in the future, as you know from, I think the last meeting, we have a site in Port Real Marina. And then we also have a site which should come to agency review, perhaps by the end of the year in near Madre de Dios Island. And hopefully those we can get developed in the coming year. We are also planning to begin the oyster operation, hopefully next year, out of Doyle Bay. So it is. We're moving ahead as best we can. If there's any questions from anyone else, please don't hesitate to ask.
Well, the Herring would like to thank you for accommodating them too. We know they helped you out.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I think I'm hard of hearing.
Good.
I would be interested in touring it. Can I get his info from you, John?
Yes.
This is Julie McDonald. I'll reach out to you and see if things line up for me to tour. If it lines up, great. If not, that's fine as well. But it'd be interesting. I'd like to see it.
You bet. Well, and we'll be, we could be very flexible. It's only, 15, 20 minutes down there. We have a 26-foot Pacific at the South Cove. But it's not a big time. We can go down there and tour and be back probably in an hour, maybe a little more.
Okay.
And so it's pretty quick. Weather permitting, I know that it's supposed to blow a bit on Monday, so that may be a limiting factor. But any other day.
More questions?
And John knows me. I'm happy to accommodate with your mornings or evenings or whatever.
Okay. Anything else, Marcos?
No, just if you guys have any questions for me, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I really appreciate the questions. I think that the type of collaboration that we've had so far has been really welcome, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the council's support for both the Doyle Bay application and the Real Marina application. I heard your messages, the question about navigation flights, and I expected that would be a requirement from the Coast Guard when we get to that point. But we will certainly review and accommodate those concerns. So if anyone else has any questions, even I'm happy to come back any meeting to talk to you or anyone that has questions.
Okay, thank you, Marcos.
I'd like to say thanks for we're really excited about the opportunity here. Clearly this is Michael Marcos. It's a new adventure for you. And it's also, a new adventure or economic opportunity for the community. And, we think it's great and we hope that it continues going forward for everybody.
Yeah, well, thank you, Michael. I sure appreciate that support. And I feel the same way. I think that we're just at the beginning of something that could provide a significant economic impact for decades to come.
Okay, we'll move on, Marcos. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yep. Okay. Moving on to resolution 20-16, sponsorship of the Craig Seaplane Base.
I don't think we have to go through each one. I think we just skip to the
Okay.
ones.
No one else? John, do you know?
Is there any other member of the public on the phone? No, sir.
Yeah. pass each one of those individually or,
Under consideration of resolutions and ordinances later on in the agenda.
okay,
Yes.
then we'll just move on. The city reports from city officials. City administrator.
Written report in the packet and lots going on already on the agenda. I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
I have more of a comment, maybe than a question, but on number 3, the AML workshop on the unorganized boroughs, I've heard that, that's got to be a big issue with some people on that. And they're really pushing that, it's something to be aware of. I think the mayor of the borough in Ketchikan is, he basically thinks that the Prince of Wales is freeloading and wants to see a borough here.
He said as much during the workshop, and I told him that there was the 3 largest communities on Prince of Wales have the same obligation to support their school districts as does Ketchikan Beaver Borough. So that was a point which I made before with him, both in writing and verbally. So it's an important point to point out.
You're pushing to get us to organize, is that what you're thinking doing?
It's a school thing. He feels like there is a basis for what he's saying, but I don't think he's reasonable about it because, other than Craig and Cloak and Heidelberg, it's really tough for communities here to make that kind of commitment to their districts. They just don't have it. And it's, there's a lot of unorganized places in the interior the same way. And I am a little bit sympathetic to what he sees, but I'm also realistic about it. And I will say I'm pleased that Craig contributes to their schools.
Any more questions for the administrator? Okay, treasurer.
Mr. Mayor, I've submitted a written report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Any questions for Sharon? Audit manager.
Mr. Mayor, I submitted a written report and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are you ready for the shutdown?
About as ready as I'll get.
Okay. City clerk.
Just that we had just finished up elections. And we'll see what the new horizon brings.
Did we count ours and send them in?
For the state general election, we use a scanning machine that tabulates the results automatically. So the in-person votes are tabulated the night of the election and sent in. And then, of course, all of our absentee ballots that were cast here at City Hall are mailed into the Division of Elections. They'll start counting those next Tuesday. And then there were a handful of question ballots on Tuesday at the polls, which will also get sent in. There were 386 people voted at the polls on Tuesday. We had about 25 question ballots that were submitted, so we had over 400 voters through the city gym on Tuesday, and we had 140 absentee voters vote here at City Hall in the 2 weeks prior to that. So we had pretty close to 550 voters between Craig and Port St. Nicholas. For the general and state election, our precinct register includes the Port St. Nicholas residents. So out of about 1,200 registered voters, we had about 550 ballots cast. And I think Tracy has a copy of the results tape from Tuesday night if you'd like to see it.
I'd like to say one thing in the elections, considering all the issues and challenges we face, I think it's great, the city and the election staff. I don't know what's the appropriate name for them again, but
Election judges.
election judges,
And
everybody's stepped up and, they made accommodations in a tough situation, and I think did it as well as they could, and people felt comfortable with it. I heard some comments, they liked the gym, and I thought that was great. So anyways, thanks to the staff and to the judges.
The long day.
One more hurdle for this year, huh?
Yeah, gone behind us.
Thank God. Which brings us to the city planner.
So just a couple quick things to add, Mr. Mayor. I think if I recall correctly, I talked a little bit about the landslides early last week in my report. There was another landslide, you probably know, 62 pit on Sunday. Russell and I had a sleepover with Tracy and her husband as we were out checking the road for water and land movement, and sure enough got caught on the wrong side of the 62 pit slide Sunday night. So it was a lot of fun. They fed us and gave us a warm place to sleep and kept us happy. So that was kind of nice. I do want to add a couple of quick things. You might have heard over the weekend that there was a confirmed COVID-19 case on Prince of Wales. It was not a Craig case, but there was one more case on Prince of Wales. And Ketchikan Emergency Operations Center, in their daily statement yesterday, there are currently over 40 active cases in Ketchikan. They've had about 120 cases, resident cases so far this year, but right at the moment they have over 40 active cases. So it is definitely, they have gone from low risk all the way to high risk, and Southeast Alaska, which is for the last several weeks been in the low risk category as a region, is definitely creeping up. So I was on the radio, we'll be on the radio in the morning talking about a few things, but I am urging folks, if you're traveling back and forth to Ketchikan, to certainly be COVID aware, wear masks, social distance. I think Ketchikan is doing a good job responding to their cases. I don't want to have to try and respond to 40 cases.
And on that note, I'm sorry, Brian.
No.
On that note, Mr. Mayor, council members, if we are in close proximity geographically to Ketchikan, obviously, and there's 6-day-a-week ferry service and daily plane service. And with this spike in Ketchikan cases, we need to be extra aware of the potential for spreading on Prince of Wales. And so if there is a similar event on Prince of Wales as we've seen in Ketchikan, then I'm going to getting back together with the staff and talking about whether or not we should return to where we were in March, April, closing the pool, keeping the buildings closed, staying open to the public by phone and so forth. But I don't want to say play it by ear, but we'll monitor the situation. And if it looks like, based on recommendations from public health and the governor's office, if there's encouragement to take extra mitigative measures, that's what I'll be looking to do. Of course, I'll keep you posted.
I'll add to that I contacted the co-op mayor tonight, and considering contacting the rest of the communities on the island, but thinking about requesting that the ferry and Alaska Island Air and Seaplane all start taking temperatures on anybody headed for Prince of Wales to see if we can head off possible cases. If we can request them to do that and see if they will do it. So if we get all the island mayors together and the councils, will do a resolution that asks or requests them to do that. It might be a good idea because of the number of cases in Ketchikan right now. So might hit something off, hopefully.
So if somebody has a temperature, I'm not opposed to it, it's a good idea, but if somebody has one, then they can't travel here, or?
Pretty much, we'd ask them to stay in place where they're at until they get tested for COVID. If it's not a COVID temperature, then yes, they could come over. But they have to wait for test results there, not come here.
You just like getting on an airplane.
Same thing.
Gotcha.
Temperatures right now is fairly common both
Yeah.
for entry to facilities and for travel.
It's a very common request anywhere you go
Yeah.
right now. So I mean, yeah.
I just worry that somebody would turn around, take a bucket full of Tylenol and then go to the fair. You know what I mean? Get turned around and.
That's
They could.
possible. It's very possible. But at least we can try to head it off someday.
Yeah. No, I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm just.
Yeah,
Leave it to the pharmacist.
no, it's very possible, but, you know, at least we're attempting to kind of head it off if we can. I mean, if they're already over there, they better be prepared to stay in a hotel for a night until they can get a rapid test or something.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's too much to ask.
I'm sure the fair is full of hunters right now. This is the
Yeah.
time of year they catch again.
That's true.
I quit going out because I just assumed they would be here.
Yeah.
Is it not too bad?
They've slowed way down because the deer hunting here is so bad.
Well,
They had a drop off last year in freight traffic just because the deer hunting was so bad.
that'd be nice.
The drop off of deer hunters.
Right.
They were both hunting.
A lot of them.
That's
Is
good.
there a lot? I've heard there's a lot.
I've seen comments about it too.
And I've had a lot of out of town business.
Well, maybe they are here, but
There's some,
Maybe not even, I mean, for a while, it was somebody every hit camping out. So it was insane.
and they've been here, but they're not here like they used to be at all, so. Anyway. Are you done, Mr. City Planner?
That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
That's it, huh? Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
He's got plenty more later.
Do we owe these guys anything for taking care of you out there? Or?
Well, I think we should write that into Tracy's job description.
Right.
Housing, I mean, that support picnic, mudslides.
Slumber party.
Totally reasonable.
All right. Fire and EMS coordinator, Minnie.
Sorry, I didn't get my report in your packets. Last week got away from me really fast. We've been really busy the last month. And to piggyback off of the COVID comments, we did transport twice in the last week. Somebody who has been a firsthand contact of a positive COVID patient. So that scare came to us really quickly. That would have taken half of my crew out of rotation, but it didn't. But that's how close it is to us. My whole entire team is scheduled and has been active. It's been really nice. In some cases, it has been so much of a response that I've been able to step back and let other advanced EMTs take the lead, and I've gone home. I think Tim did on one too. So it's been nice to have the responses that we've had. Training, we're ramping up on our training again. We just got done with one tonight. Laura, who is my most experienced medic, she's an EMT 3, is looking at becoming an EMT 1, 2, and 3 instructor so that we have one on board within the squad. There's a couple more of us who are considering also becoming at least an EMT 1 instructor so that we can bring on board other EMTs if we can, if it's possible. The unfortunate thing is there's not too many people out there who have the want or desire to be an EMT. So I'm going to start looking at the younger generations and see if I can't get high school age ETTs to respond with us. Shondell just did an ETT class up at the Voc Tech Center, and I've only gotten 2 people who want to volunteer with us. Nobody is interested in filling the full-time EMT position or the part-time position. I still am looking for somebody to fill those positions. So that's been really tough. Because I feel myself steadily going backwards in just keeping my everything afloat, which includes making sure that our ambulances are fully stocked and cleaned and sterilized after, especially after a COVID case. We have to go from head to toe to make sure that we're completely clean before it goes back into the rotation of going to its next call. So there's a lot more to it. So that has been interesting. That's been an interesting part of this last couple of weeks. I've been keeping up with all of the reporting to the state of Alaska for both EMS and fire. That has to be done once a month. I'm working with Brian on keeping our MMRS container stocked. We are looking at making sure that we are fully restocked after giving out our COVID supplies at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. So we're about at the point where we don't owe anything back to that inventory. Dr. Kohler is supposed to be coming back down here in November. I am going to continue to press for us to become an ALS squad again, because in the last week in calls that I've been on, I could have definitely used my advanced skills. I can't do that as a BLS squad. If it came down to a life and death situation, I probably would do something that would get me in trouble, but I'll ask for forgiveness later. I've been keeping track of all of the training hours, all of the scheduled hours, all of the on-call hours, because those are all paid differently in different spreadsheets in my office. So a lot of my time is been spent in the office, and I really need at least a part-time person to work with me. Other than that, it's, just keeping our flow moving every day. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have two.
Okay.
The first one is there any possibility, because you're short 2 people, right, 1.5 people. Is there any possibility, this would be for you too, John, for contracting out for like the cleaning portion? Like to see, since right now nobody's interested in those 2 positions. Could we see if maybe until somebody's hired for one of those 2 positions, if there's somebody that'd be interested in contracting for the clean? I just hate for you've got so much on your plate. Feels like you could, maybe somebody that's not necessarily interested in being an EMT might be willing to.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility, and if any of you have any suggestions on who I could call,
Okay.
I'd be interested in talking to anybody, anybody who's willing. That's why I'm looking at high school students as well, because start from the ground up and create the person that you need.
Yeah, exactly.
It's difficult to contract with just a cleaner because they have to be on call basically 24/7.
Yeah, that's what I was
So if they
wondering.
come in from a call, it's.
Yeah, I mean, but even when we found somebody that really worked, they're only available from 9 to 6.
We've been alternating ambulances, what we do.
Yeah.
Go in, we completely bleach one down and let it open up and dry and use the other one if we have it
Yeah.
on call.
They're just trying to expand the pool of people. There's gonna be people that aren't comfortable with being an EMT, but they might be comfortable with cleaning and stocking.
But see,
I don't know.
when we come in from a call, we're already PPE'd up, we've already got all our gear on.
That's true.
And it's easy for us to turn around and jump in there and do it. We can have it done in 10 minutes. It's a tough call.
I'm trying to lighten your load.
I know you
You're not
are, but
helping me.
it's hard to do it.
Well, it was a thought. And then second thing is, where is the container now being kept?
Brian's got it in.
You're hiding it?
I have, the MMRS container itself is over at Public Works Yard.
Oh, okay. All right. And that's the same container we've had the whole time.
So that's the regional container. The city of Craig stocks the container, which is currently parked up by the pool. And most of the supplies from that container are currently in the Connex up next to Hope. And we're getting some more supplies in eventually. I'm gonna get some shelves put in our container by the pool and split the supplies between the 2 containers when we're done.
I just want to thank Minnie for the work she's doing. And I do want to pop over to Brian because I did make a request a long time ago. I know we didn't pay for the original stuff, Did anybody kick in to help pay for the replacement, or did we have to take it all out of our COVID money?
We have been using our CARES money, a little bit left, and Shondell has told me that there are a couple of other communities that made some offers, so I'm gonna work with her to finish stocking or overstocking.
Yeah, like, next time it's time to give it out, it's our stuff.
And we have been, so we reached a point where we have been instructing folks that they are liable to replace. We've given out a few supplies in the last 6 weeks or so, and after the last major distribution that we're working to replace, we have been telling people it's their responsibility, their agency's responsibility to make replacement of anything that we issue out.
Okay.
How are we set on N95 right now?
We are N95 rich at the moment.
And they're really expensive
They're
right
getting
now,
hard to
but
get
we're,
down south because of the increase in cases.
We just
So
have
I know New
2,000.
Mexico and Arizona were both suffering shortages
Yeah.
last week, so
We just-
we need to be stocked.
We just received 2,000 new N95s, and I'm still sitting on about 500 from our previous
That's
stock.
good. That's good. You have to realize that if we actually had an active case, like we had a suspicion of one the other day, you'll go through 6 or 8 masks in one call.
Yeah, that was one of the things that the vendor that Minnie and I are working with recently came. We've left a list with the vendor of items that we're looking for, and he's been very good of anything that he sees coming in through his supply chains of giving us a call and a heads up. And N95s was one of those items recently, so I ordered 2 cases, 1,000 masks per case, and
Good call.
puts us in pretty good shape.
we did the same with the surgical masks as well, where.
Yeah.
Both stocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a comment. We have a cleaner that we have hired out, that is cleaning the harbor showers and bathrooms. And that's what they're doing is because of the COVID, they're going in and so I don't know if we could talk to them and see what we could work out with them, even if it's just detailing ambulances every, I don't know, however often. The second thing is there's a family that just moved into Thorn Bay. The wife is working at the school and the husband is a distributor. And he actually just had a whole bunch of pallets of hand sanitizer and a whole bunch of supplies just brought in that he has. And so we could use for him as well, they said. So I just found out that.
Yeah. Good to know. If we need to hook up with them, to get them things and stuff, we will. But if we can figure out a way to do it, we'll have to kick it around.
And then if you have medications that you're needing and stuff too, call me at the pharmacy. I was starting to do some of that with Shondell, so we'll do it at cost and all that.
Thank you. We're not released to order medications,
Yeah.
but definitely I will.
Maybe do you know why people aren't signing up for the EMT positions? Do you think it's because of COVID or because of the pay or the stress? Or just
It unless they've been exposed to actually working, I think, in a medical field,
great.
it could be something that could scare, a person. And that's why I think exposing people younger so that they're aware that it really, it is blood and guts, it could be. But just exposing them to let them know that that possibility is here. And it could be the start to a great career. Myself as an EMT, I worked at the medical center for 15 years as an EMT and made really good wages. So I think there's just not enough exposure out there to everybody, even adults who don't get along well with blood. It's just, there's so many variances and so.
I know that a lot of younger people go to like nursing school and stuff, so I'm just wondering why they feel there's a difference between an EMT position and a nursing position.
I don't know, but being an EMT really is a different position, but could add to your nursing skills.
It actually can advance you on working.
But one of our positions is merely a clerk position. We're not requiring that one to be an EMT, are we?
Not an EMT level certification. We are asking for an ETT level certification,
Okay.
which is also basically the same as BLS and CPR. So I would definitely consider a person if they were to approach me with a BLS certification. It'd be easy to work. And the reason for that is we would probably need them on the ambulance as a driver or an assistant. Because we are more on the short-handed side of everything than we are fully
Right.
employed, so.
Okay. Any more questions for Minnie?
Yeah, thank you, Minnie.
Thank you, Minnie. Harbor Master. Wake up, Hans.
Mr. Mayor, I have submitted a written report. Would be happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Hey, Hans, it's Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, thinking, we're still in lots of discussions about the breakwater thing, and I'm thinking maybe you could try to organize a telephonic harbor committee meeting and ask whether they were interested in doing a resolution of support as a committee for the breakwater. I think it wouldn't hurt us at this point to have the harbor committee to do that, if they so choose. But I know it's been hard to have meetings, but you could end up using this stuff up here and have the guys call in on the telephone and do the telephonic one.
Okay, so if I understand you're requesting that we have a harbor committee meeting to talk about getting the harbor committee's support for the breakwater.
Yeah, that, you guys probably should discuss the report from the from the engineer on the other harbors and those kind of things too, maybe. I know it's been difficult, but and I think we've lost our council liaison, so I'm looking at Mike here now because he knows more about the harbor than anywhere else. Hopefully he would become our person. And that, it seems to me, are you short one other one too?
No, wait. We were going to, I'm a little confused. I can't remember right now. I think Mike was going to step down and Mike never did. So I think we'll just keep him if that's possible.
He can't vote. He's talking about you. Yeah, so I was on the harbor committee. You have to, but we always have a council liaison now. I can do that. You can do that, but yeah, you can't vote for on that game, but we need the liaison. That's fine. So technically your position needs to be advertised. Yeah, or that you have enough for a quorum without a new person though. I don't think you have to wait till you get a new person. Just a thought, huh? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. We will move on that and have figure out how we can meet. There's not very many of us, so we probably could meet in person and just social distance. So I'll work on that and get a meeting put together.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
So, Mr. Mayor, when you talk about the harbor committee, to me, a committee is a committee. And as a committee, you don't get to vote. So is this committee like a board?
Well, no,
It's a
it's
harbor
an advisory committee.
Oh, okay.
They just relay stuff through Hans back to the council for
Okay.
advice on what they need us to look at.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody else got anything? Library.
Mr. Mayor, I submitted a written report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'd love to talk about the library for the next 20 minutes, but I will. If anybody has any questions, let me know, but otherwise I will just keep it short.
Question for the library. Okay.
I liked your ideas on the space. This is Julie, by the way.
Hi, Julie. About rearranging.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's kind of a bummer to think about closing the library again for 2 or 3 weeks because we were just closed. But I've spent a lot of time walking around the library thinking, how can we eventually, hopefully we'll have a bigger building, but for right now, can we make it more efficient, more spacious? The kids area is way too small. So we finally managed to come up with a plan that I think is going to be a really, really, really good idea. And I have it color coded and step by step. We move this here and then we move this and then we move this. So it should, if we have enough time, it should go pretty smoothly. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about closing again, but I think in the long run, it'll be worth it. So I'm excited to see what you're going to do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Police Chief, RJ?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I submitted a report. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you, RJ. Public Works.
Good evening, council. I did not submit a written report, but we've been doing quite a bit of work cleaning and repairing and cleaning and doing what we can to mitigate the effects of those 3 landslides.
You've been busy.
Yes, sir.
We all know that,
Yes, sir.
and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just make sure that I say thank you to all the individuals and entities and communities throughout the island that were there on site and were willing to help with personnel. And we had several Port St. Nicholas residents who went the extra mile, helped in monitoring and maintaining culverts, and so it was a huge group effort, team effort. It was really amazing to see how the community and the people of the island, came together and helped to take care of these landslides. So I'm very grateful and very thankful.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you. I know it's been a hard road, and I appreciate all your extra work.
Thank you.
Yeah, CTA stepped up, and Sean C. as well as the residents out there really contributed a lot. Tyler Rental actually loaned us a lot of equipment, and which we're very grateful for. So all of them people got together and really stepped up.
Yeah.
So
I even saw a treasure out there flying.
yeah, it was quite an effort. Yeah. They got it done really fast, considering the amount of damage that was done. So good job was done by all.
Yeah.
Good thing we had a good organizer out there. Mr. Russell.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, recreation.
Mr. Mayor? I have
Yes,
one
oh, I'm
question.
sorry.
Has there been any discussion yet on how to address
Wow. Must be an echo chamber.
Oops.
I'm here.
Hang on, Victoria.
I just wanted to ask if there'd been any discussion on what to do with the one creek that is so far off whack now, and thoughts you had on that, or?
I've spoken with John. There are several ideas that we've been looking at, trying to keep it at short term and what we can do short term, and then of course long term. Part of tonight would be, that's being brought before the council, the emergency declaration or whatever that is. But to potentially bring someone in that has a little bit of expertise in looking at drainage issues and seeing if we may have to remove, some of that debris, especially like on that second landslide area, up above, and whether we really need to get involved in redirecting flows versus changing culvert sizes. I definitely need some expertise help in trying to figure out those details. So, I do have some concerns about that second landslide area. The majority of that flow of that creek has been, diverted to an 18-inch culvert basically, and whether that 18-inch will be able to hold that and take care of standard storm events, it's kind of questionable. So, I think we need to be looking at some of those issues sooner than later. So here again, we're trying not to muddy the water because there's so many issues there, long term versus short term. So there's certain things we can do. I have concerns about the road. So my concern is, especially that second landslide area, that roadside has been greatly undermined. So those are one of the things that we're going to do right away is restore those areas, make sure that we maintain that road. The third landslide area, of course, starting next week, we're going to be going in and we'll basically have to rebuild one side of that road. And so we'll be doing that. So yes, and then of course there's still some debris, especially at that third landslide area. If you've been out and taken a look at that, I do have some concern about the landslide itself, kind of diverting everything, and there's still a lot of debris. So a lot of stuff that can still come down. So we're going to have to maybe get up into those areas and do some work. Just how to partner with property owners and so on and so forth, and of course, funding for that. So those are things that I've spoken to John about.
Okay.
We're trying to keep those processes prioritized and organized as much as we can.
Thank you.
Victoria?
My turn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I submitted my report late. We have a bazaar that is almost full on November 28th. We've cut it down to 11 to 4, and we're filling up on the December 12th bazaar, and they will be safe, depending on if we end up with COVID cases here. So far, so good. I've also got the Youth and Recreation Center open every day after school, and Wednesday and Friday evenings at 6. And tomorrow we get a 125-pound pumpkin donated by AC. So we're going to be cutting that up, and that should be entertaining to say the least. And karate is continuing on, and so is Civil Air Patrol and Magic. And we're doing a lot of cleaning and organizing at the youth center. Any questions?
How has the after school been going?
Not good. I don't have, I have one gal that comes because she has to, and I haven't had anyone come in, and it's, I don't know, doing the best we can. I've lowered it to 5th grade and up. I really don't want, I don't think it would be safe to have a bunch of younger kids in there, and I don't think it'd be possible to keep them apart. So we're doing the best we can. I've got some other ideas. Samantha Wilson is an extremely talented artist and crafter, and we're going to start offering some drawing classes and some other things, and hopefully we'll figure out how to get some people in there and hopefully study, because from what I hear, they need it. They need a place to study, and I have very sharp college graduates working for me that could help them with any kind of tutoring that they would need. So doing the best we can.
Okay. And you're gonna keep it to 5th grade and older for now, right?
Yes, I am. I just lowered it to 5th grade.
Any more questions? Victoria? Okay, thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Okay, parks and public facilities.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I was on PTO and missed deadline for submitting a written report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. The main thing we've got going right now is the wood boiler. We are planning to fire it Monday morning. We have one item left on our punch list to start, which we'll finish tomorrow, so we're gonna fire it up Monday, and that's kind of the biggest thing we got going. Other than that, any questions I'd be happy to answer.
Are you gonna have to shut down again when you open, or when they close the pool?
No. No, the school's running, so they'll take the heat, and then we'll use the heat at the pool for the atmosphere, the temperature room, or for heating the building.
Okay,
So there'll be some load on it, but then there's a few items on the new propane boilers we'd like to take care of, since starting them that we'll have time to do while the wood boiler's up too, so.
all righty.
That's it.
Any questions for Russell? Or, yeah.
Doug.
Doug, yeah. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, reading correspondence. We need to discuss them.
Only if the council has questions or comments.
Question? You catch anything, Winter King, Jim?
Yeah, we've been,
All right. Move on, consideration of resolutions and ordinances. Resolution 20-16, sponsorship with the Craig Seafoam Base.
move to adopt resolution 20-16.
Motion been made and seconded to adopt resolution 2016, sponsorship with the Craig Seaplane Base. Any discussion on that?
I wonder, the administrative responsibility, how much is that?
It's very light right now, because we're not actually receiving any money from the program that this facility is otherwise eligible for. So really, it's a matter of demonstrating that we're putting at least as much money into the building as we're taking it in rents. That's the
Okay.
limit of our obligation at the moment.
So it's not something that we ever run.
It's not.
And then is there any kind of liability increase with this?
No, we already own it, we already operate it.
Okay.
Oh, they're already in the insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. Need to vote on that, John?
Roll call vote, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Heather Bazinet,
Yes.
Millie Schoonover,
Yes.
Mike Kempner,
Yes,
Julie McDonald,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Tim C.
yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, resolution 20-17, coordinated transportation plan support.
Move to approve resolution 2017.
second,
Motion's been seconded twice. To accept resolution 2017, coordinated transportation plan support. Open for discussion. Anybody else discuss it? Are you gonna drive for a million?
Oh, heck yes. I don't have any.
Yeah.
Just checking. All right. We'll have roll call vote on that, man.
Heather Bazinet,
Yes.
Millie Schoonover,
Yes.
Mike Kempner.
yes,
Julie McDonald,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Tim C.
yeah,
Thank you.
Motion's been passed. Resolution 20-18, natural disaster declaration.
Move to adopt resolution 20-18.
Second.
Motion's been seconded to adopt resolution 20-18, natural disaster declaration. Any discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
there was an original version in the packet, and then I updated it, and I think it's been distributed. It was at your desktop there. You came in. I modified a number of the whereases to update it since the original went out, because we had more storm events between the time the packet went out and the time of tonight's meeting. So I added some detail about other weather-related events that have occurred. Brian assisted me with some of the wording on making an actual request to the state for eventual funding to help offset our costs to respond to the impacts to the road resulting from the couple of rain events that we had. So I've asked the council in its motion to adopt the revised version rather than the original. I will add that you talked to Russell touched on the fact that he's been working out there, he and his crew, and folks that have been hired and others that have volunteered. And there's a lot of work to be done still. Those drainages that gave way are going to need a substantial amount of work to put our existing drainage structures back into operation, right? Rerouting, moving material, logs, rocks, mud. And it will require assistance from an engineering company. I don't know how many people they'll send out, but we're going to need that expertise to safely restructure the waterways that lead to the drainage structures that we have. Also required, Russell suggested a few minutes ago, required coordination with the upland property owners. The slide all originated on private property. So there'll be that coordination to do. Russell, in my view, with the help he got, did a very good job of clearing the road as soon as possible and then trying to make it safe and stable as can be, at least in the interim. But the real heavy lifting, I think, is yet to come. And this resolution helps to document some of the impacts. And again, as a first step toward seeing if the state is going to be willing to contribute to offset the cost of this, which will be substantial.
Are we going to be able to arrive at some kind of a guesstimation of what the cost is going to be? So in case the state says, well, how much are we talking here? We can at least throw something in their ballpark.
I haven't been through the process before with the state to recover costs from a natural disaster like this, but I'm sure it'll be us paying up front, initiating the initial costs and seeing what we're qualified and eligible to get from the state in response to the disaster. So anyway, having an engineer on board will help us estimate the volumes that need to be moved, the rock blocks that need to be built, the water courses that need to be upgraded. And engineers, as you know, part of that work is estimating the amount of time, labor, and equipment time necessary to get that done. So having a report from a civil engineer will go a long way toward estimating those costs. But again, this will be likely the city fronting the cost and then seeking reimbursement for what we can get.
Brian?
I was told both Russell and John this, but my first action, assuming that the council passes the declaration tonight, will be the first request of the state will be for someone from the state to come down and assist with some of the damage assessment and to provide some technical assistance, provide at least a high level kind of engineering opinion about work that needs to be done. So that'll be the start of it, and then we'll fine tune it with an engineer that we hire.
Council also, Forest Service is going to do a disaster declaration too. They have an estimated 54 slides on their road system. that they're looking at, and that's just a rough guesstimate. At the other 2 days ago, when I talked to District Ranger, and he is planning on doing a disaster declaration, and if we both do it at the same time, it carries a lot of weight. I feel that the feds might even get involved in helping us. So, being some of that stuff come off of Shawnee property, I don't know how far the feds would be involved in that, but they could, BIA and the federals could get involved in that somehow.
That can be my mind too.
Yeah, I would suspect that there's something available there possibly. We'll have to coordinate with CPA and everybody and see what they can find out. And Shawnee. And that way, everybody's aware that there's possibilities out there.
Right, but we call the Forest Service being responsible for fires yet on Chauncey.
They are.
So I can't imagine them not being involved in the slide too.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I would think so.
I would suspect that PIA and the feds in general are going to have to respond to this in some way, shape, or form. Even if they have to, like Russell said, go up onto Shaunee's property to reconstruct that stream bed or alleviate some of the potential slide hazards that are still exist. That's on their property, and they do get involved on, like you said, on fire. I know that from the fires we've had here before. So they, I believe they will get active. Something we need to look into, possibly. Or let the feds take care of it, I don't know.
Yeah, we can find out.
Without promoting, they'll do that. So anyway. Good deal. So where are we at on that? We need a vote?
Yeah, thanks for updating us with the other info.
Of course.
Karen Bethany,
Yes.
Millie Skidmore,
Yes.
Mike Kennedy,
Yes.
Julie McDonald,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Jim C.
Yes.
You know, that's me to vote.
We don't care about your vote.
All right. Unfinished business. Move on to the CARES Act rental and mortgage assistance.
So, Mr. Mayor, there's a memo in the packet. The short of it is we received a little over 65 eligible applications. Misty's gone through a number of options of how best to apply the funding. This is even fewer applications than we anticipated and budgeted for. The council, as you may recall, set aside $100,000 for this. Alternative 3, which is the option that I'm recommending the council adopt tonight, would use about 52,000 of that. That would pay up to a cap of $1,500 for 1 month's rent or mortgage for the 66 applicants who are eligible. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, no questions on that? Moving on.
Make the motion.
Oh, sorry.
I would move to direct staff to allocate rental and mortgage relief as outlined in option 3.
Second.
Motion's been made then. Move on to option 3 anyway. Any further discussion on it?
I think option 3 looks good. And probably another round in December. So kind of snowballing for everybody.
It's gonna have to be a lightning round if it's in December. because-
Well, right.
So the plan right now
Just
still is,
another round.
yeah, I'm kind of tightening up, pulling back money unspent from other allocated programs. It's still a little squishy as to what the final number looks like. Obviously, there's money left over from this. We know there's some money left over from the utility relief program. We'll have some money coming back from some of the nonprofit funding programs that we put out and some of the earlier business programs. Plus, we've got about $65,000 unallocated with everything else that's been either budgeted or allocated. So the rent and mortgage relief program and the electric utility relief program, our thought is that we can go out in December for another round of funding. It could be done quickly. It would be a lightning round. And we would essentially use people who have already applied and been determined to be eligible for those funding programs. But right now, the next focus is the third round of business assistance. And so that's going to take a chunk of money, including maybe what's left over here in the utility program.
And are we ready?
Voice vote.
Voice vote. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Thank you. Downtown Harbor project update.
Mr. Mayor, there's a memorandum in the packet summarizing some activities on the Downtown Harbor project that the council met last. Want an update on these three items, especially my meeting with the Army District Corps staff who were here on October 27th. We'll continue to carry out the council's direction on preparing public outreach for the project. And in the meantime, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
I have one comment, not question. We talked about doing, I know you said you wrote that you contacted the newspaper. I think you have it in it, let's say. But I would really like to see the article, common miss related to the harbor project. But I would happily volunteer to write it or help with it, but I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough.
Well, actually, I plan on working, I have a call in Kitchen Daily News. I don't want Kathy writing this article.
Yeah.
So I'm working with someone at the newsroom in Ketchikan to work on it, so we can approach it more as he would anybody else when he's interviewing for work.
So it's not possible for the city to write something and submit it to the newspaper to be published?
No, we could do that too. Right.
I'm looking for an unbiased article. Yeah. Sense.
I mean, they need to have some serious facts, like how many big
Right.
boats are waiting to fill our
And
harbors.
part of that preparation
Unbiased,
in talking to the reporter would be to prepare something, here's what we're proposing to do. They could read that and I can come back with questions. That's the approach I'd like to take.
I just feel like if the city writes it and puts it out there, we can, us living here and Millie talked to 20 some odd people. We'd all talk to other people, so we know, since we live here and we understand it, you guys have, some of you have more history on it than I do. We understand what points need to be made more clearly. So I kind of feel like if somebody from the Harbor Committee or somebody more involved in it writes it, that the messaging might be more to the point.
That could maybe put on the Facebook page or something like that.
But nobody looks at that. And the island, this, in my opinion, this article and the I can't remember the name of it, the Island Post, thank you. I think that's gonna go far, so.
I think that what they're nervous about though is people saying that the city of Craig wrote it and thinking that we're turning it to make it in our favor instead of just facts that are out there. So, because like if somebody read it and they're against the harbor, right, they'd be like, oh, of course they're talking about all the good points. They're the city and they want this passed.
I hear what you're saying, that is a valid point. So I'm contemplating what you're saying, it's a good point. I think, at least in my mind, the goal was what I was thinking was our goal was to correct misconceptions. This is going to raise my taxes. No, this does not raise taxes. This is gonna mean our current harbor will be neglected. No, it will not be, and here's why. You know what I mean? Like, if we can do this again next year. No, the Corps has given us this opportunity that, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be a real wordy, like, this is why we need it, and it will be beautiful, and, like, it can just be, like, I feel like targeting those misconceptions, and those are the big three. It can wait, it's gonna raise taxes, our current harbor is gonna get more neglected.
And I don't want the council to think that I'm just gonna rely solely on the newspaper to get the word out. It is our project, so it's appropriate that the city does present information on the project periodically, maybe through a series of short pieces on our website or ads that we can take out in the post, for example. I still think we have to do that as well.
Okay.
I believe the letter is a good idea. I think we should write that letter and then present it to the person that's gonna be writing for us in Ketchikan, that's gonna be writing the article. It gives them the information and then let them word it in the way that they feel is necessary.
Mhm.
And like John says, release stuff of our own in the meantime on the city website and Facebook or wherever we
Yeah.
need to.
Because if any of those three things were true, it would give us all pause. If we were gonna have to raise taxes, if we were gonna, we could wait till next year, we have COVID, everything, we would all have pause about it. So I think communicating that to the residents that these are the reasons we're pushing forward on it.
If the reporter over there will look at some of the other places that have had these put in, and he can show the economic impact that these have had for those people. I mean, this isn't the first one ever been put in.
But see, I think the economic impact point, while a very valid one, it still doesn't correct the fundamental
Right,
myths.
no.
Oh, it will help us economically, but I don't want to pay more in taxes. Well, let's do it in 2 years. We
Right,
still got to target those three myths.
Those three are definitely at the top.
Yeah.
I think if we wrote a letter explaining that our position to that reporter who's gonna write this,
Yeah.
then that would help him or for them to
Yeah.
clarify it.
And
And we can approve it.
I normally, I'm writing is kind of, I would love to help with it, but, I've sat in on these 4 meetings and stuff, this is just not my wheelhouse to write it effectively. I don't have all the terminology yet.
Kevin,
What's it? You don't like it. Look, you idiots. No, I'm kidding. He doesn't have your teeth.
well,
What's wrong with one honesty?
there you go.
Well, you don't have to worry, you don't know where you stand with my husband. You know. All right, we segued.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it. Anything council wants to bring up anywhere?
Yeah, next page.
No, I moved on to Carter.
It's a 2-pager.
It sure is, I'm there. AT&T proposed tariff change.
Mr. Mayor, I touched on this at the last meeting and tried to provide a little more detail in the memo that's in the package tonight. AT&T did submit a letter today. I think I forwarded it via email. Mr. Garrett, who had hoped to be in attendance tonight, is not able to call in. Although he said he did ask when the day of the next council meeting was, so he could be available if the council still wishes to hear from him. So I tried to summarize the 3 tariff actions proposed by AT&T and attach the tariff public notices from the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. And again, the November 5th, 2020 letter from AT&T regarding AT&T's explanation of the proposed changes. So while there's no action required here, and I think as I explained in the memorandum, we'll have a number of opportunities to comment to the Regulatory Commission of Alaska and work with the Regulatory Affairs and Public Advocacy section of the Alaska Department of Law. Council should, I guess, keep providing input to staff to coordinate comments to RCA during this process. This is probably going to be a months-long review process, right? So there's no hurry here, but it's important to keep this in mind, as well as the fact that we can expect to see another rate increase on the Haida Energy project, as written in the memorandum here in the near future, I'm told. So it might be a week, it might be a month or so, but it's coming.
Comment? Okay, you wanted some questions pre-done so he can look them up? I'd like you to send him, I'd like to know what the cost is to produce it. electricity by diesel oil right now. I can tell you right now, it's way less than what we're gonna pay HydroCorp for the first amount. It's only a couple cents more than what the hydropower is. When you look at the bill we get in the wintertime, it's not that much more. So the deal they've come up with on this new thing with Heidelberg is the most ridiculous pricing in the world for hydropower. Other people get hydropower for 4 cents. Not 16 cents, and certainly not 26 cents. And they did not do anything in our best interest by saying they would pay 26 or 36 cents a kilowatt from HydroCorp before they would start doing diesel generation. That's insane. And that needs to go to the public commission. They shouldn't be able to get away with that. If it's cheaper to do it by oil, then we should have the option to go to oil first, not get stuck with instead of having $125 bill, everybody's gonna have a $250 bill. Your bill's gonna double or triple if they have to go online for that thing down there. It's insane. We're gonna be paying more than the people do out in Cupid Pass for electricity here with what they've done to us down there, that stupid project. That's just my opinion.
I've got it written down here.
Anything else? It doesn't set well with me at all to be paying that kind of an increase on what they're wanting to try to charge us for HydroCorp's power. And like you said, if we can burn diesel, then they need to have that as their second option, not HydroCorp. If they want to continue to charge that price, then we need to figure out a way to do something different. So, or at least they let AT&T, they need to do something different.
I would think that as a utility, they would have to look out for the public's best interest, and they have not done that.
They're not doing it, but carrying on that kind of price increase.
So is the plan to submit comments to the RCA?
Eventually, yes, and I'll pin down, what usually happens in after this public notice goes out, with the complicated, and more significant, rate change proposals is that the commission puts them on hold so that they have, much more time to act under the law before the deadline under which they have to act. So, as I said, it's 99.99% of these type of proposals get delayed to a secondary timeline. Like I said, that gives us a chance to work with AT&T, talk with the Rapid division, maybe get some more information and see where we end up. It's a complicated equation because I think I mentioned before, the RCA essentially works under the philosophy that the utility has a right to reasonable return on its investment. And so that's going to have to be weighed against what's a reasonable increase in the cost to the ratepayers, right? And so that's part of the complicated decision the RCA is going to have to make, weighing those two factors.
But in this case, it's not return on, making sure they stay financially viable. The concern is they're going to a secondary option that's way more expensive than this building. Right?
Right, and the problem is they didn't make a good investment in the first place. That's where the whole thing started at. These people overran by $7 million building this thing, and so now they want to gouge us. And that's not our fault. That's a bad investment. So for them to get a return on an investment like that stinks. I mean, they made a bad investment that it's going to cost us. It just does not sit well with me. If my stockbroker did that to me, I'd be down there dealing with them. Don't be making a bad investment like that.
Is there interest in having Mr. Garrett here on the next council meeting? Or someone from the company? to response. What's that?
Anything close?
Well, you can be here, because I'll ask him the same question and put it the same way I did with you. Why did you sign some kind of agreement that screws over the people on Prince of Wales Island?
I'll
Because
provide,
that's what they've done.
I'll provide the 2 questions to him in advance,
Yeah.
for sure.
You can have it in advance. How prepared can you be for that
Nicely
one?
worded, John. Nicely worded.
And we would love it if he wants to show up and sit in that chair and explain to us why they did what they're doing, So,
If you'll be able to do exactly what it costs them to produce, I mean, the price of fuel right now is at that spot. I've never seen it this low. It's technically cheaper for me to burn oil in my house right now than it is to pay somebody the $225 to bring me a cord of wood. When I put my wood stove in, I'd say $3,000 the first year putting it in based on the price of oil. So that tells you, and they buy it by the hundreds of thousands of gallons, so they get it way cheaper than we can ever bring it in. So I doubt whether right now the cost to produce it with diesel generation is very much more, if more at all, than even what they're charging us for Black Bear.
And as we all know, there's 2 sides to every story, so they'll give APT a chance to come and state a case for the rate change, and the council can finalize their comments after that.
But, I mean, I understand the fact they lost $7 million, but that shouldn't be on us. I don't know who it should be on. Those guys shouldn't be getting a paycheck in the upper echelons for a long time, but that's just the way I think. That's a bad investment.
Okay, I'll circle back around to APT.
good on that. Okay. NSCSA landless bill decision.
ANCSA, of course, standing for the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act. There's likely to be a bill introduced, as I've explained in the cover memo, creating 5 new ANCSA corporations in Southeast Alaska, and I've summarized the communities and included some draft text, although I can't say that it's the official text, right, until something gets introduced, but it gives you an idea of what's being proposed, as well as the maps. And to me, in my view, the issue for the council to focus on here is the merits of providing for substantial land selections on Prince of Wales for corporations based in other communities, for ANCSA corporations based in other communities. So it'd be good to get some initial reaction from the council, because time is likely to grow short. If the intended plan is to have this introduced and get a hearing before December, before the end of the year, then we may run out of council meetings for the council to detail its comments. But if you can give me some broad general comments here, that can help me get me started with an outline for comments to send off to the Senate once a bill gets introduced, which I'm told does seem likely.
Comment.
Real simple, absolutely not.
My position is that I fully support those people getting what they need, but I don't believe they should be taking any more off of the Wales. If they can't find land in their own neighborhood over there, Ketchikan, Wrangell, or wherever these guys feel that they should have land and they should be compensated in another form. And it doesn't have to come off of Prince of Wales. We've given enough land up and they don't make any new land every day. So I don't feel that we should support this in any way, other than saying, yes, they're entitled to their ANCSA settlement, but not at our expense on Prince of Wales. it just causes our corporations that already exist here to suffer because of the loss of hunting territory or land, fishing opportunities and everything, and the timber resources that exist out there. We're limited to what we have, and we've already given up a lot. I feel that they need to look in their own yard and stay out of ours, basically. Is this kind of what the council feels?
Yes.
It's pretty much what I've heard from everybody that I've talked about it. Although I did see it doesn't say that we give up any hunting or subsistence rights to that land, right?
That's what it says. It's, they blocked the roads over Polk Inlet that they weren't supposed to, we were supposed to have access over there.
Yeah,
And
I'm
it's
not
all
saying
blocked
that it won't
off.
happen, but it can't be part of our argument. So I was meaning, that's not.
We lose the habitat. It's not
Right.
just
The land.
the loss, yeah. We lose the habitat for the deer, which, and everything else. So, yeah, and for whose gain? It's not for our gain. It's for an outside. And they have their own land over there. They have Refugio and Verena and everything else, you know, as well as Wrangell Island and everything. They can, you know.
How many acres was the state swap? Like, you probably know better than anybody else, but when we just did the
Mental health.
the mental health thing behind Ketchikan, let them rate that over there. Make Ketchikan happy.
I think it was close to 20,000.
Yeah, I
I want to be careful with that. I'm not 100%.
I'm thinking it was more than what this is, at least considerably. So they can end up, the feds want to give them land, give them back that land.
That entire unit behind the ferry terminal up there on the hill was all part of that swap, wasn't it?
The whole thing is going to be logged all the way over to Cabilco, but
Exactly.
it's done.
Yeah,
And that's some of the best winter range that was left on the east side of the island.
it is. And I mean, when I was in there cutting, there was wolf sign as well as deer sign, bear activity. They had moved into that second growth toward Hollis a little more, but they're not totally dependent on that second growth yet. It's still, it's a 60 to 80-year-old stand, which is pretty good, but it's not enough to carry everything was there. And we can't afford those kind of impacts. That's a huge impact all at once to take that out of the habitat. If they do any more of that, we're gonna be clear out of habitat. So,
Another issue with the Red Bay one is actually most of that I think is young growth, but it's older young growth that is probably closer to a point where it could be commercially viable. And you know, if it goes private, it'll almost certainly get sold, you know, round logs and overseas rather than hopefully supporting a future, you know, local operation.
So is the land on Hackett, that's all second growth.
Yeah, and that'll be the same thing there. That's
Yeah,
right.
40 to 60-year-old second growth is there. But they logged in Port Alice. I know right where it's at. I anchor up in this Port Alice all the time too. So I know right where it's at. But, yeah, I don't agree with any of this at all. Anyway. We'll let Lisa know.
I'm gonna wait until the bill gets introduced, just to double check the language in it and the maps. But I think it's unlikely to change much from what's in the.
I read through this and I didn't see, maybe I missed it, because I went through it pretty fast, but I didn't see where the parent corporation was gonna get involved. Are they gonna get a match on the 23,000 acres for these three things to be able to come pick on our island too?
The regional corporation?
Yeah. Are they gonna end up getting a match?
As far as I know from what I read, I think they get the subsurface to state.
Right, but I'm worried that somewhere in this, they're gonna finagle another 23, another 100,000, huh?
125 basically.
Yeah, they're gonna, I'm really worried that they're gonna end up throwing that in there. I only went through it once, but I'm really, I can't see Alaska not wanting to get their fingers in this pie too. That has to make sure that that's an absolute non-anything.
I disagree. I don't see that happening.
You don't think they will?
No, because they're gonna get the subsurface. And they make mega bucks off the subsurface, so I don't think they're going to do that.
That is a good question, though.
The impact down here was huge from all the corporations doing all the doll and a lot of Prince of Wales was all done from corporations that aren't anywhere near here. So that's something to make sure.
This would be a surface and subsurface allocation.
I don't care about the subsurface, but actually I care about the subsurface. We don't want them here, period. But all I just make sure she doesn't sneak in there anything. We're opposed. I'm opposed, period. Let them, they can log on and catch me.
Okay.
There's more than enough timber in that other trade over there for them to do that. And it's good timber.
There's always happened, we can
Yeah. Have that.
have in. Any more discussion on that issue?
I have a question. I don't know, John, if you'd be able to answer it or not, but do you think something of this magnitude, that it would go out to all of the communities on POW to get their opinions? Or do they just write it like this and pass it like this and then it's too late?
I couldn't say if the other communities have been in touch with the delegation staff about this. I just don't know. I do know I provided some of this information to someone from Kaufman Cove to share with that community. We have a guy in DC that helps us with this.
Right.
And that's why we have what we have here. And it may be that the other communities have had contact with the delegation staff, but I don't know.
Okay, I think I read somewhere in here when you were gonna contact the village corporations on the island. Did you say something to share or meet with them?
I don't recall that.
It says, I recall seeing that somewhere too.
Yeah.
I think that was in the vehicle, the ride share or the transportation.
Plan.
That's where, the only place I read anything about.
Maybe we could just be nice and send everybody a copy or tell them they need to look up the fact that they've done this.
That'd be a good idea.
As a city of Craig, we should contact
Notify CK,
Clark and
Quash, Chauncey, Highport, everybody.
the
Let them know that
the
they're
different
trying to grab-
municipalities here.
Because, like I said, I don't see where we can afford to give up much more.
Okay.
It's gonna affect our lifestyle and everything here.
It seems weird when we have our own corporations here.
Exactly.
That's, yeah.
It's
It's
weird.
like Cluckmore, where they come from and they block Long Island, which is a long way from us, but still. It could have been part of Idaho, it would have been available. And it was a really good standard timber on there at one time, but there isn't now. So, and I don't see very many people on it in Cluckmore. So, that's just what I expect we see kind of similar situation here. It's gonna come in, break and pillage and leave. So,
I'll keep the council posted on the status of once the bill gets introduced and timelines.
So this would have to be passed by both, or approved by both House and Senate.
Before January 20th.
Right. I have a hard time believing the House is going to support this.
It's a long road to hoe, as the saying goes. Yeah.
it is.
It's been on the table for, I don't know how many years.
No. Long time.
40 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long time.
That's why we suggested when the first started being discussed, that they bring up possible monetary settlement or something else, but, we support a settlement, no doubt, but to keep taking it off, that's well, it's not a good thing. Airtech business assistance, round 3, and fisheries assistance.
Mayor, council, there's another memo that I sent out earlier today, and the copy was put in front of you, kind of updating the memo that was in the packet from last week. So If you don't mind, I'll just quickly kind of do a synopsis of that memo and answer any questions council has. So the reason I didn't have all the information when we put the first memo out was this most recent sales tax quarter was not due until October 30th. So Misty has been compiling the information as those sales tax reports came in so that we had a full 6 months of 2019 and 6 months of 2020 to base the program on. The purpose of this program, of course, is to provide additional business assistance through the CARES Act. The short of it is, of all of the businesses that report sales tax, they really fall into 3 groups. One group includes new businesses or businesses that have discontinued, or businesses that have not provided made all of their quarterly sales tax reports. And under our proposal, those businesses are not eligible for funding under this round of funding. The second group is really businesses that either did not report a loss or actually reported a gain between when we compared their 2019 and 2020 sales tax data. And those businesses would also not be eligible for any funding under the third round of funding. So that leaves 42 Craig-based businesses that have submitted reports for all of the qualifying quarters. And those reports reflected a loss of income between 2019 and 2020. The total loss of income is about $3.3 million for those 42 businesses. So we are proposing to make an assistance payment to each of those businesses equaling 30% of their loss between the 2 years, capping it out at $2,000 per business. It's really kind of skews the bulk of the money towards the not necessarily the largest businesses, since several of them would have capped out at a much higher amount if we would pay them 20% of their full business losses. Businesses still have to confirm that those losses were due to COVID-19 impacts. And so if approved, we'll send letters out to all of them, and they'll have to affirm that impact and send those letters back to us. Commercial fishermen were included in the first 2 rounds of the business relief grants. Commercial fishermen don't pay sales tax, so we don't have the same data for them. So we're proposing to do a short application period. There's a list of criteria in the original memo, and we would make payments to the commercial fishermen. We're proposing to make payments equal to the average of what we're paying to businesses, which is about $1,385 per business. We still have a few businesses that don't pay sales tax that are not commercial fishermen, and some nonprofits. So it's likely we'll be coming back to the council with one last program to cover those folks who are also eligible under the first 2 rounds of the small business relief. But for now, the recommendation is to allocate $95,000 of CARES Act funding for round 3 of the small business and for the fisheries relief program. And I'd be happy to try and answer any questions.
I have, very good job. I have a comment sort of on this topic on this. For me, it would be really helpful, and this might go back to our treasurer as well, to have some kind of like spreadsheet maybe in our next pocket that talks about that for the amount of money we allocated and spent for CARES Act. That would be helpful for me, because I'm starting to go a little cross-eyed on it. As you are.
Yeah, a visual.
And I've got that generally. The biggest problem with that is we haven't started pulling money back from any programs yet. So as it stands right now, we are almost fully allocated of the $1.7 million that we started with. But there are a number of programs, you know, we've talked about some of them tonight. The rental relief program, there's about $50,000 remaining. The utility program has about $22,000 remaining. We have a few businesses that have still not provided their paperwork in the first 2 rounds of business funding.
I get that it's not complete, but it would just be helpful for me to see what all we've allocated and what all we've spent.
You bet.
And I know it's still more can be spent, but I don't know.
Yeah, we can do that. There's a recommendation at the end of, on the second page of the memo that I provided today.
Move to direct staff to proceed with the Craig Business Relief Round 3 and the Fishery Relief Programs in an amount not to exceed $95,000.
Second.
Motion's been made to approve the direct staff to proceed with the business relief round 3 fisheries relief program in amount not to exceed 95,000. Any discussion on
I have a comment that really isn't any discussion on that, but this is the first time that we've had a number to look at. $3.3 million less revenue is over $160,000 in flipping sales tax that we've lost.
And the number is likely higher because
Right.
there are a number of businesses that, for whatever reason, have not submitted all of their sales tax reports. And so we don't have the data to tell whether they had losses or not. I will also say though, that just of the 3.3 million, that's not all taxable sales. We base the business losses off of essentially the business's gross receipts. So you have businesses like the grocery store that does a large amount of tax exempt sales to seniors, or the hardware store that does a large amount of tax exempt sales for building permits. So the $3.3 million represents, based on the data provided during sales tax reports, a $3.3 million loss. It's not directly tied to all taxable sales.
Well, that's surprising me because the grocery store with the price raising that they did down there, they certainly didn't lose it.
And I will say, I have the list, if the council members are interested in any particular business. But the data that we use to generate these numbers, it comes from the sales tax reports, which are confidential data. And so I'm happy if you have a particular question, please drop by, but I can't provide that data in whole.
Yeah.
I'll check on the price of the ferry now. Shit, 3 people down there on the 17th of
I
$2,500
know.
one way.
Question on the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm calling for the question so we can vote.
You don't want to go home.
It's great.
Yeah.
Discussion's over. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Really don't shoot me, I have one council comment. Can we, since we've resolved the whole airlifting thing with Guardian, we had kind of tabled or not done that request from Northwest. It's Northwest. Right?
Airlift Northwest.
Yeah, so we've had not done anything with their request for support because we were thinking about the Guardian.
We were hoping they would compete. for
So can we
membership.
at our next meeting bring that back up and see if there's interest and
If you like to have it on the agenda, we
yeah,
can put
to
it on.
relook at their request.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Else?
I do. It's the council photo.
Oh.
As well, we were gonna do it at the beginning, but it got started pretty quickly.
So after you adjourn the meeting, please don't run off so Tracy can get a photo of the full council. Since we don't have one yet.
You reminded me after that.
She said.
So, here's your reminder.
There's one more now, so.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.